Hey guys, All Sports 83, sporting another video at you, and today we're moving on to part 4 of my series on the future of NASCAR gaming as we get closer to those next-gen consoles. And in this video, we're going to be talking about what I call the weekend experience. So if you want to know what that is, stay tuned and let's go ahead and get started so we can check it out. A NASCAR event is way more than just one 3-hour race on Saturday night or Sunday afternoon. For race teams, it's a 3 or 4 day grueling struggle to find speed and optimize performance for the main event with practices and qualifying sessions. For fans, it's an extended weekend vacation getaway full of camping in the infield, purchasing NASCAR gear, and looking for that opportunity to encounter your favorite NASCAR driver. Because of this, a NASCAR video game should find a way to capture this entire experience. Now, most of what I discuss in this video will apply to career mode, and I think you'll see why, but I certainly wouldn't be upset if some of these things were part of the offline or quick race mode as well. Everything starts from the moment the loading screen appears when you're headed to the track. That loading screen should be a complete overview of your performance at the track, and the stats should be separated into 3 categories: career mode, offline mode, and online mode. Now, this loading screen would serve as the perfect snapshot for your overall performance at the track, and the stats would show on the screen, and they would be series specific. For instance, if you're headed to the track for a Truck Series event, only your Truck Series stats will appear. Also, I would include total laps led as a stat for all 3 categories, even though that I didn't include it in this mock rendering. So I must say that I've been very pleased with the background clips and scenery of the garage and cars for the track menu in the NASCAR Heat games. So I don't really think much needs to change here as long as the graphics are appropriate for the next-gen consoles. Where things get interesting, however, is your to-do list is not just getting out on the track for practices and qualifying sessions for the race. There should be also 2 or 3 opportunities to engage with fans through autograph sessions or have a sit-down with the media for an interview. Obviously, these additional items are career mode related, but as I discussed in the career mode video, how often you do these things and how you perform would affect your reputation to fans and other drivers. So let's discuss further these autograph sessions. I'm not thinking of a quick time event here where you have to do something. Instead, maybe you decide how much time you wish to dedicate to this session, and then there's a cutscene showing you signing the autographs at a merchandise hauler. Obviously, the longer session you commit to, the more your reputation improves. As for the media interviews, the realistic option here would be themed on the media center that's set up at each track, sitting behind a table with a backdrop and a crowd of press in front of you. Now, as for the format of these interviews, it would follow the basic structure we've seen in other sports games. Basically, a question is asked, and you have 3 or 4 possible responses you can choose from that determines reputation, the kind of personality you have, and it may also affect media reaction. Of course, your answers would affect all of these different things with both fans and drivers. Though it's not a revolutionary concept for sports games, it would be another area where a NASCAR game is catching up with the rest of the world, and a supremely welcomed addition for NASCAR fans to finally experience. Now, I do want to clarify one thing. This image of the to-do list was just an example of everything that could go on during a day's events for career mode. Here is an example of what a single day could look like once you get to the menu. As you can see, there is no race option here because this is a Friday schedule for the Cup Series. Basically, these menus need to correlate with this weekly schedule that I'm showing now. That's a menu schedule for the week, and we talked about this concept in our last video in a little greater detail. So, once you've practiced, made adjustments to your car, interacted with fans and the media, and qualified, it's finally time for the climactic event of the race itself. Here's where the game needs to pull out all of the stops. Everything from the broadcast introduction to the National Anthem to developing stories, even starting the engines. Here's some details that I've been thinking about. The race begins with a broadcast intro, just like any broadcast when you first turn on your television to watch the race. Again, this will be much more polished and realistic if you have actual broadcast teams from, say, Fox or NBC come on to do those intros. Additionally, I'm not sure that you would need those broadcasters to come in and tape a whole bunch of voiceovers. I mean, there is plenty of recorded material that I think could be used. Just extract the audio from previous races where they speak of the track, its history and unique personality, maybe who is traditionally successful at that certain track, and just dub that audio over the camera shots of the track. Now, I tested this theory, and except for some small edits to eliminate current events, this could work really well and sound completely legitimate. The best part is there's such a large library, it wouldn't be hard to collect plenty of sound bites for each event. The only exception would be tracks where the series hasn't gone to before or brand new racetrack. For that, you would probably need some original content in those scenarios. Nonetheless, the work would be considerably less for those broadcasters, which could save time and money. After this intro video plays or skipped, next we have the National Anthem. Now, I'm not sure that the entire song needs to play, as that would take some time, but certainly enough of the song should play where you can get some different camera shots of the crowd, the drivers and crew, and maybe some military personnel can be seen. Also, you can't forget the flyover. Once again, after the anthem is played or skipped, I envision a screen cutting to the cockpit view of the race car. You hear a faint call through the PA system for drivers to start their engines. Then your spotter keys in the mic and tells you to start the car. It may seem like a small thing, but I think the idea that you actually have to do something to start the engine is kind of a neat concept as a prelude to the race. This is a big moment of anticipation in a NASCAR race and should be part of the game, in my opinion. Okay, now that the pre-race ceremonies have concluded, it's finally time to go racing. Now, the details of the racing itself will be discussed in another video, but I do want to mention a couple of things that should happen during the race to enhance the overall experience as it relates to this presentation style. First, cautions during the race should have a replay so the player knows what's happening. These replays should include all the typical camera angles you'd see on television, including the normal broadcast camera, race car onboard cameras, and maybe even the angle from overhead in the blimp. The perfect spot for this to happen is right before you're taken to the spot where you decide your pit road strategy. I talked about that in part 2 of this video series on pit stops. Also, these caution replays should include broadcast commentary to stay consistent with the viewer realism. And naturally, a player can choose to skip the replay if they wish to control the type of experience they want to have. Finally, let's talk about the end of the race. Now, right off the top, if you win the race, you should keep the burnout option that's currently in the games. I'd consider adding some flair to this, however. I call them celebration checkpoints. Basically, if you drive to certain spots on the track, you could trigger a 10 to 15 second video that adds to that celebration. For example, if you drive backwards to the start-finish line next to the outside wall and stop, you trigger a video of the flagman bringing you the checkered flag. Then it goes back to the player to resume his or her burnouts or opt for another celebration checkpoint. Another checkpoint could be that if you drive to a certain point in the front stretch infield, a video is triggered for your crew coming out by the wall and or the edge of the grass to cheer you on and high-five your hands sticking out of the window. The developer could add a couple of more of these celebration checkpoints throughout these sections of the track, like a burnout with your nose against the wall, or other popular celebrations we've seen from drivers. But the idea is that the celebrations can be customized, and of course this whole process can be skipped, as with most of the suggestions that I make here in these videos. Okay, let's move on to Victory Lane. Having a 20 to 30 second video is just fine here, but I'm no longer a fan of the generic celebrations we see in the current games that runs on an endless loop until you advance the game yourself. It was fine at first, but it got old pretty quick. These videos should start with the car pulling into pit road, then the driver climbing out of the car to roars of the crowd and the pit crew with confetti shooting and liquid spraying everywhere. Afterwards, things should get very specific for the track. If you just won Texas, your driver has a cowboy hat on firing 2 6-shooters into the air. If you got the win at New Hampshire, you're holding a massive lobster for the photo op. And yes, if you won the Brickyard, you're kissing the bricks. These celebrations and trophies must be track specific. Otherwise, the gaming coders are just wasting their time with these cutscenes because after you see them one time, you're just going to start skipping them. Now, as for these victory lane videos themselves, I think you should see them no matter who wins the race. And yes, there should be more broadcast audio for these celebration videos. After the victory lane video, there is a final word from the broadcast team talking about the race, showing the finishing order, and updating the points if it's applicable to that mode that you're racing in. As for the career mode, you then would move to any post-race interviews from the media center if you finished in the top 3, like we talked about in previous videos. Well, that's what I pretty much have for the weekend experience. By respecting the importance of driver interaction with fans, the opening ceremonies, and customizing celebrations, 704 Games could show that they truly understand NASCAR and its fans. And now that they have these next-gen consoles coming, they can help fans live these moments they've come to enjoy on their television screens. But you can let me know what you think in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.